When crypto boom, will it be in October? Today we have Paul joining us. Let's take a deeper look at the charts and see if we can get an idea of what's going on. Then let's dive deeper into crypto and your altcoin picks. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. If you're looking for crypto news without context, or you're looking for panic selling and FOMOing in, unfortunately, you can find that in a lot of places, but not here. If you, like me, came into crypto because you realized the potential for life-changing gains over a 4 to 8 year period, and you're looking for discussions and assistance on becoming a solid and shakable crypto investor, you're in exactly the right place and with the right family, the Rainmaker family. I created this channel 6 years ago. I was new to this, or I didn't create the channel 6 years ago, but I created this channel because I was once new to the crypto space 6 years ago. And back then I was looking for a crypto channel and a network or group that understood crypto as an investment and discussed important things like investment cycles and projects and the pros and cons of those projects and the risks and the guesses at the potential upside if it came together well. Well, I didn't find that, so we created it. And I say we because it's a whole family of Rainmakers, and you'll see them in the chat. You'll see them in the free Telegram group, which the link to that is below, and you will definitely find them in our private Patreon group that allows you access to our Rainmaker private Discord. This is where the best discussion and best info is, and there are other benefits too, but you'll have to join us to find out. Do note, I'm not a financial advisor. Paul is not a financial advisor either. Let's go ahead and get this party started and make it rain on that like button if you haven't already. Paul, thanks so much for joining us.
Hello to everybody. Yeah, it's great to be here. What an interesting week we've had. As we were discussing last week, the big number was non-farms, and boy, was it an important number.
Yeah. Now, what are you seeing going on in a lot of what you're tracking and looking at?
So we've seen the strong rally in the US dollar, and let's just go to the US dollar chart. And on Wednesday last week, we were discussing the potential for a big move after payrolls. Now, you're probably not following US payrolls, but payrolls is the number of jobs that are created or lost in a recession in the US, and the US being the biggest economy in the world is the one that drives everything pretty much. So the world watches, and we got a storming number, like a really, really strong number, which would have implied that interest rates go up and the dollar goes up. But this is a very interesting lesson in how markets work. This upward trend in the US dollar now suddenly made sense because somebody was anticipating a really strong number, which is why when the number came out, the dollar rallied a bit, but it was just the last gasp of the trend, and then it collapsed. I mean, it's not collapsed much compared to the trend, the beginning of that trend, which started in July, but it's a pretty big move in a few days. So we have seen a big move back down and the start potentially of the dollar weakness that should extend and accelerate into next year and possibly beyond. And my screen's gone zoomed in again. It does that sometimes. So I might have to come out and come back in again. But the main story was really strong jobs number, which actually the interest rate market didn't react to either. So the expectations on interest rates are still that they're either going to stay the same or potentially go lower, which is what I believe. Inflation is falling and the numbers are confirming that. So we're setting ourselves up for a really nice little risk rally. As you've probably seen, some shorts have got to be covered. Michael Burry, have you covered your shorts? I don't know yet, but the market's had a really great rally, and October is a bit of a volatile month. So it wouldn't surprise me if we still got some more shenanigans, as it were, in this month. But the overall trend is still to the upside. I'm still bullish, and I don't think there's anything that will change that this side of this year. So it's all steady as she goes, and we're just waiting for the move to impact the crypto market now. So we've seen equities up. See the Dow's up, very good rally. We were looking for a cyclical rally from the 2nd of October to the Friday, the 13th of October. In that window, it started the move. This has got a feeling like it might want to be an inverse head and shoulders. So we could come all the way back down and then go up again. That would be interesting. But I think we've hit the low. It feels like we've hit the low. And this could be a really important low point that takes us into the end of the year and a Santa rally potential. And all other risk assets should be following on from there. So markets are looking really interesting. They should start to hot up from here. And it should be clearer that the US has peaked. Remember, I was saying about the strong US dollar, higher interest rates, and the higher energy prices with the triple whammy on the US economy. So those things are lagging in terms of their effect. So I think we'll see that effect from now. And that's where the policymakers will get room to cut interest rates, which is why the equity markets are going to be going much higher.
That's interesting. On going back to the US dollar, how we often talk about buy the rumor, sell the news, or for those that aren't familiar with the term, it's like buy during the rumor phase, sell when the news happens. And that's what happened with the US dollar, that probably a bunch of people anticipated that the non-farm payrolls would come out, which would be bullish. So when it actually did, it then fell after that, but it pumped all the way up to that. And we just see that happen yet again. We see that happen over and over in the crypto space. We see that happen in different markets, and it often catches people off guard when you're new to this. Seems like to me about only 20% of the time does it pump after, like, so a lot of what we see is the lead up to a big launch or the lead up to a mainnet launch on a project. It pumps really well. And when the actual thing goes live, you would think that it would pump after that. And it usually doesn't. It corrects down. We recently saw this with Bumper. And it seems like maybe 20% of the time it continues pumping and does really well after that. But most of the time it does not. It comes back and it catches a lot of new people just off guard over and over again because it's just a little bit counterintuitive. So I just wanted to point that out, that it happens in all kinds of markets. Game Trope says, good morning, Rainmakers. Thank you for joining us. He's my good buddy that's been doing a great job covering a lot of the play to earn games and a lot of the blockchain gaming that's coming out. All right, what are your thoughts on what's happening with Bitcoin? So we have seen a rally in the stock market, and we've seen the dollar come down. What's happening on the Bitcoin chart?
On the Bitcoin chart, not very much in the short term. Let's just get the chart up for you. We pressed against some good resistance, and this 28,547 was a failed move. I mean, it hit it, so it's hit the floor, hit the ceiling. We're kind of right in between the range, waiting for a breakout. Which way is it going to be? Truth be told, this should be going higher. That was, risk on is coming. It's coming back, and fear will start to dissipate. So this really should be going higher, but it's taking a bit of a breather, and it's stuck in this range. So we're going to wait to see whether this 28,547 level goes or 25,212. If we get a dip down below 25,212, we might get as far as this 25% retracement level, which is around 23,000, this sort of zone. I'm pretty sure it will be that should be a good support level if it gets to it. So there's a few chess moves ahead of that scenario. I think if I had to guess what would happen, and it would just be a complete finger in the air guess, because we're waiting for the market to tell us what to do next, or that's how I view it anyway, reading price action. I think it will come off a little bit and then go back up again, consolidate, and then break this 28,547 in the middle of this month, because we'll see a delayed reaction to this risk on situation. So for me, I think it's sideways for now, but broadly the bullish scenario is there. We're just waiting for a key level to break. Now, in Elliott wave terms, which is something I like to look at every now and again, in order to start a new rally, you have to see a clear 5-wave pattern to the upside, which means you get wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. If this was part of the wave 3, this move here would not go below the top of this. This would be wave 1. So it'd be wave 1, 2, 3. It would come back to here, 4 potentially, and then 5 up. So this move here is very telling that we're still in a corrective, what's called a corrective phase. So we're going to bounce around in this range for a bit longer, it seems, but I'm still bullish, and I still think we'll take out 28,547. I would say before the year is out. Seems like more likely to me. Whether we go via the more scenic route of the downside and then up remains to be seen, but everything should really be set up for a move much quicker than that. And if we are a bit disappointed and it takes a bit longer, there will be such a big rally next year anyway. I don't think we'll even consider this to be important by the time we get to looking at where it's going to go to when it really starts kicking off. So still just waiting patiently, I guess, is the headline, and we'll let the market tell us which level it wants to take out first.
At the beginning of the month, because September was up, a lot of people speculated in the crypto space that we were going to have an amazing Uptober. And at first the rationale made sense, but it seemed like there was too many people expecting it. And just the market doesn't work that way. When everybody's expecting something, it usually does something else. And so the trading sideways isn't like I agree. It's probably going to play out just like that. And the chart seems to suggest that that's what will happen. But I still think we are setting up for a very bullish time ahead, a crazy bullish time ahead. And a lot of people want to know when the bigger rally is going to come. And the truth is, I just don't know. And it's not that it doesn't matter to me. I wish I knew. I just don't have that magic crystal ball. What I know is the cycles in crypto have played out with pretty strong correlation to a massive run every 3.5 to 4 years, then a massive pullback. And we've been going through the massive pullback now for 2 years and like going on 2.5 years. And so what usually comes next is a massive run with a general slope going up and then a massive blow off top. And so that's probably what's coming, and possibly next year. Maybe we have something at the end of this year. That's still a possibility, but more likely it's next year. And if it doesn't happen next year, it'll be the year after. So some of it is just having the patience to wait while using this time. Like at least if for those that follow the same methodology that I do, which is, I would say more like long-term swing trading, you're trading basically buying the lows and selling the highs. And so sometimes you're holding for 2.5, 3.5 years, and then you're selling when things go crazy. You're taking massive profits, and then you play the cycles over again. So it's waiting for that to play out, and that takes extreme patience, which can be frustrating because a week in crypto sometimes feels like a month, but it really is just a week. Let's jump over to the ETH price. We have a number of suggestions that came in our videos last week for this week. Well, that will cover, but we also have probably some time to take some viewer ideas of what you want us to cover as well.
Yeah, ETH is same boat really. It's caught up in a consolidation going sideways. There's been good support at this level, 17th of August, 11th of September, and we're back here again in October. So it's bouncing off this support. It may come a bit lower towards this trend line, but ultimately this is all a basing pattern, I believe, and we should see a move to the upside at some stage before the end of the year. But it seems like Bitcoin is going to lead this. It really, ETH has been a bit more sluggish, a bit more muted, a bit more sideways than Bitcoin, which I think is possibly one of the best performing assets this year. I think we mentioned that a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even last week, because the it's surprising how it doesn't feel like it is. It feels like it's still performing badly. And I know we've mentioned it before, and people say, well, it depends where you've bought it from. Yes, but at least it's performing very well this year and one of the best performing assets this year. So if it wasn't that, it would be even worse. So you can only judge it by how it's trading now. And Bitcoin itself has been performing very well. ETH has been dragging its heels a bit, which is a little disappointing, but I suppose not to be completely unexpected. But we're not in the next major phase of this rally. If we were in the next major phase of this rally and everything was taking off and ETH was doing nothing, that would be a big worry to me. But we're still in this holding pattern. And from a long-term perspective, nothing's changed. It's still bullish.
Yeah. Let's jump over to some of the altcoins, unless there's something, sometimes copper or some of the other precious metals are doing interesting things. Are you seeing anything else that's on your mind in the general markets?
Well, just I guess the drop in oil was Brent crude. You know, we had a big move up in Brent crude and then a big move down again. That's always good for inflation numbers. We had a move up in uranium, which I think is a good sign if we're going to nuclear. That's going to keep costs down, or should do, until, I don't know, some other excuse comes along as to why power's got to be more expensive. But then we've got Meta, which is, it was out for the count all the way down here, wasn't it? If you remember that, nobody could see how Meta would be anything useful. And then here we are all the way up here. And like AI, when something new comes out, it can revolutionize everything so very, very quickly. So perhaps we're getting closer to this potential metaverse, and its use case will come quicker than we think. And that's what the market's getting excited about. So when I see Meta going up, that makes, in the background, I feel more confident that certain crypto projects will do very well, or have the potential to. I mean, it's not like it's guaranteeing it, but I just think it's a good sign, given that they're investing so much in that space, and the market is rewarding them for their technological foresight, I guess. So I think that's interesting. But yeah, for the moment, it's just mainly equities doing well, dollar weakening, and the potential, this good potential bounce. The market has, from, you were saying earlier that the market was very bullish on Bitcoin in October. I kind of heard more the opposite, that they were very bearish and actually looking for it to go down much further. And I thought it was the same with equities, but obviously different. It depends where you listen to your information, really. But certainly on an equity front, there's been a lot of nervousness. The Michael Burry stuff was massive, wasn't it? And we've had shock after shock in terms of bank failures and shutdowns, and what potential shutdowns and debt ceilings and all the things that's supposed to really knock the market down. And it's not happened. It's just gone down a little bit, and overall still sideways. So, but yet the market positions are facing more to the downside than to the upside. So that to me tells us that the upside is still the preferred direction. So overall, it's looking good. It would just be nice if we got a weaker CPI number. Now I'm just trying to think when CPI is coming out. It could be this Thursday, actually. It could be this Thursday. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a big move on Thursday. We'll have to see. So yeah, apart from that, everything seems to be either in a holding pattern or bubbling up to go higher. So that's pretty much where it should be for this point in the cycle.
Interesting. Yeah. Let's take a look at some of these altcoins that our viewers suggested in video, the last video. And if you have some suggestions of what you want us to look at in the next video, put it in the comment section below. If you are live with us today, we probably will have time to take a few suggestions. I especially like it if you tell me a little bit about what you like about it. Like, what are the fundamentals behind it? Because some of the projects I'm not familiar with, there are over 20,000 different altcoins out there. And so I don't know even half of them.
So, sorry, did you say NVIDIA or did I mishear you?
Oh, some AADA.
Oh, ADA. Yes, sorry. Yeah, ADA. Okay.
I did want to say something about the Facebook thing. Did you see, or Meta, did you see the interview between Mark Zuckerberg and Lex Friedman when they used their new, where their technology is going for the metaverse, and they used the new, well, I don't know what version of the Meta Quest it was, or the goggles, but the interview using some of where their technology is going. Did you happen to catch that interview?
No, I didn't see it. I did see the interview with Joe Rogan a while back, and there was he had another tech guy on talking about crypto after that, which I thought was very interesting, but I didn't catch that one. What was the Pro Vision goggles, which I think the market is just sort of discounted. I think that when they come out and when they're a bit cheaper and when consumers get a hold of them, I think that's going to be a much bigger deal than the market's thinking. And I reckon that Apple stock is going to sort of do quite a lot on the upside when people realize that. So what was said?
What was interesting is what it showed. And so they did this interview from different locations, and they had scanned their face in beforehand so that with the scans already loaded in, it could actually be a very real-time metaverse chat between them. And it seemed like they were in the same room. And what they were looking at with the goggles of the other person looked just like the other person. It was crazy how good it was.
Wow.
And so it was kind of showing people where their metaverse idea was going. And I was shocked at the quality. Now, in order to do it at that high quality, they had to scan in the person's features beforehand. And so how practical is that? Well, they haven't developed a way to mass scan people that want to in order to participate in that. But it gave you an idea of where their vision is going and what it will be capable of, as well as their new headset will be coming out at $500. The previous one was $1,500. So they found ways to make it cheaper and cut costs on some things, but some of the capabilities in the new one will exceed the capabilities in the $1,500 one, even though the $1,500 one was a higher end version. And so it's going to be more reachable by more people. And it was interesting. So probably that's what created a run up for them. And people will probably start discussing the metaverse again. And if that narrative comes in really strong, well, then it will pump a good half or more of the crypto market like it did in October 2021.
I think the point with the look, I've not had a virtual reality experience, or not one that I can remember. I may have done, but it's been possibly I did, but it's when I tried it out, it might have been with a phone and some box or whatever, just to see what it was like. Yeah, it was pretty good. But this technology is the equivalent of moving from listening to music on speakers in a room to having in-ear earbuds that sound great. And I think the point to remember is that businesses will take this over. Businesses will be using it, or it'll be useful in a business context. So you'll be able to look at through your goggles, your 3D glasses that won't be antisocial because you'll be able to see people in the room as well. So it'd be the virtual reality. Instead of having a whatever size screen that you got to lug around with you, we all want a bigger screen, but we don't want to lug it around. We want that balance. Like we want a bigger phone, but we don't want a brick in our pockets. But with with the goggles, you'll be able to have a massive screen, a massive theater screen wherever you want. And that doesn't mean that you can just watch things like Netflix or whatever movie you want to watch, or YouTube. It means that you'll be able to use that as a desktop for your work. Now, I think that's really interesting, especially if they get what has to get right is the latency, because otherwise you can feel queasy and a bit, it makes you feel a bit weird when you come off, like being on a boat. So once they've sorted those problems out, which I think is what the problems were with the first generations, it could be a really big step forward. And we all know that Skype isn't the same and you know, these meetings are great, but they aren't the same as being in person. But anything that steps up and gets it closer to that in-person real experience is going to be valuable. And it's not just for meetings, because always think face-to-face is going to be premium. It's going to be the way to meet people. But from a business point of view, I think there's some really interesting things that are happening, and that sort of ties into the concerts and the experiences that people can have, and the new experiences that people can have with the technology. So I think once people get on board with that, I think it'll be another step up in how we work, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. So, you know, I mean, I don't think that with the amount of money that they've got, they can't get it wrong. You know, they shouldn't be getting it wrong. They're throwing so much money at it, and they've got such a huge advantage because they've got so much money to throw at it. Yeah, there's a chance it won't work, but I think it will. I think it is. You know, I like technology, but I'm also an advocate for analog and meeting people in person and doing it all that way. But I think there are times when you've got to recognize when a new piece of technology could be a game changer, and I think this is one.
Yeah, we're heading that way. And a lot of people aren't paying attention to it yet, kind of like the internet. It was really just kind of the more analytical side of the population that was paying attention to what was happening at the internet, because it was very technology and like word heavy, like words that people didn't use, like, you know, voice over internet protocol and just TCP IP. And so like the general public pretty much dismissed it. But the internet changed businesses everywhere and changed the world. And those that made smart investments in the businesses that were changing things made huge amounts of money. And we're going through the next iteration of that. So blockchain is really blockchain combined with cryptographical encryption. It's allowing the internet to do things it could not do before. Now, a lot of crypto that comes out, a lot of the crypto projects are just crap. And it doesn't mean they're not a good intent by somebody to create something that will do well, but it's not a structured business that's going to move the space forward. It might be some kind of play on tokenomics or some kind of meme coin. And that's why I call it crap. Doesn't mean they're bad people running it. It's just I have no interest in investing in that. And some of these projects that are quote unquote crap, it's not that some don't do well. The predictability of them doing well is, you just can't predict it. It's too much like gambling, and the odds aren't good or in your favor. That's why I call it crap. Some of the, you know, meme coin projects are run by good people with good intentions, and some of the other crap is run by good people with good intentions. But I'm looking for the businesses that will move the space forward, that have a narrative that makes sense, and then a token that relates to it well. And that's the stuff that has higher predictability on whether the token will do really well. And that's what I'm looking for.
In the early days of the internet, people would always say the www bit at the start, which was quite funny. So I mean, now you just say whatever.com, but it would be www. And they would actually say it in adverts and all that. And of course, that doesn't happen anymore. Yeah. So it's interesting how things very quickly become the norm, and you can't imagine a world without it, especially the kids of today. I mean, gosh, it makes me sound like an old fogey, doesn't it? But pre-internet was quite an interesting time. But anyway, back to the exciting times ahead. I remember
growing up with the old televisions, or as you say in the UK, tellies, that like had a few channels that worked, and you had like little rabbit ears on there you had to play with.
Oh yeah. I remember black and white TVs.
Endless amounts. They don't even necessarily use the TV anymore. It's all on their phone. They have endless amounts of interesting content. Back then, when I was a kid, you had about 3 hours of cartoons, and then it was just a bunch of content you wanted nothing to do with watching.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was and you weren't allowed to advertise to children at one stage, and obviously that's all gone out the window. Yeah. Too much money, isn't it, at stake? But there we go. But yeah, so over to the future and Cardano. Where is it going? Not a lot of change from last week, really. It's still in this descending situation. These highs are descending on sharp support. So we had the big sort of sell-off here where everyone panicked, bailed out, sharp rally, back down again, sort of drifting sideways. So look, it's a good zone here. It should hold. I think it will kick back up, but I would like to see this pattern of declining highs broken fairly soon. And until that happens, I'm going to be a bit cautious on it. So I would say for me, it's a wait. I'd like to take it as it travels through 30 cents. I don't mind it going up a bit and some other clever person buying it at much cheaper price. But that's just the way I look at it from a technical point of view. It's below its 200-day moving average. This is the purple line. It's not the end of the world, but it's still in a downward trend itself. So the average prices are still going down. It did flatten off a bit, which looked like around here it was going to go up, but it's still drifting a bit lower. So for me, with everything else in a holding pattern, I don't see any urgency in getting into this at this stage. So that's why I would say it's a wait. But it's also something that you can't turn your back on just in case things start to kick off. So when vol comes, it'll come back fast. So it's always got to be on the radar. It's always good to get an update on it and look at it. But for me, it's a wait.
Yes, for me, I love it at the lower trend lines like this. Now, sometimes it does break to the downside. Will Cardano break to the downside here? I think the chances are low that it does, but it could, and I'm always open to that. So for Paul, this is a wait, and he just buys on different mechanisms that I do and holds, buys and holds during different time periods. For me, this is juicy. I usually have a longer threshold and a long, just with the way I go, it's usually longer holds where I'm buying usually during what I hope is a lower period. And then I'm holding till the rains come in and the whole market goes really, really well. So for me, this is the type of place I love to buy it at. I think Cardano's at a massive discount right here. And I love where the price is. So for me, it's a huge buy. Cardano was my favorite last bear market and did very well for me. At the bottom last bear market went to 1.7 cents. So it's nowhere near that range. But it went all the way from 1.7 cents to $3.40, and it's pulled all the way down to 24 cents. Since 4 years ago, Cardano was much more established, has a much larger community, much more projects building on it. In fact, back 4 years ago, had no projects building on it yet. So I feel like the risk is lower. And what a juicy price at 24 cents. It's not the really juicy price we had a while back where it went down to like 21 cents, but it's pretty close to that. So for me, it's a big buy. Great. Let's take a look at AADA or Lenfi. Now, Lenfi did some interesting things.
Yeah. So Lenfi, I haven't got a whole lot of data, unfortunately. It may have been around for longer than this chart is showing, but this is all the data I could get, and I couldn't get it on the other charting system. So a little bit of a caveat about the lack of data. We've got small uptrend, downtrend, nice smooth upward trend that's happened up until July. Then it's come straight down again, big spike to the downside in September, and it seems like it's on its way up again. So it looks like a tentative buy. It looks interesting, but I couldn't have any confidence behind it because of the time frame that I'm looking at here. So yes, it looks like it's the start of something. I jump on, but I'd have to jump out of it pretty quickly if that rally started to fizzle. So I would say it's a small, for me, it would be a small tentative buy down here, given the price history that we've got. But it's a nice breakout. And if this price is real, this spike to the downside, technically that's usually a good sign that the trend has ended. You can see the way that happened at the top of this trend was indicative of a trend ending to the upside. and this potentially mirrors that to the downside. I know we also got this one here in the middle, which ended up being still part of the trend. But when you're dealing with these thinly traded markets, that is part of the risk that you take, that things could just move extremely quickly and they're going to be liquid compared to some of the bigger projects. So so with that caveat, I would say it looks interesting enough for a small buy, but not much more than that.
Yeah, this one's been fun because in the middle of what everything else was down, it was really fun to see this one really blast off and take off, and gave some people that have been following it some additional experience during a generally very boring time in the market. So Lenfi bottomed out here at around 20 cents. So it was AADA back then, and they changed the name. The chart doesn't show when it came out. The price actually started about $3 and came down from there. And so unfortunately, we can't see that price history. Came back, and I don't know that it was ever as high as where it went to. So it broke to new all-time highs. And then it's retraced. Now, I remember watching during these moments, it had been running up and just watching the comments on AADA. And people expected it was just going to keep going up for forever. And notice that's not how it played out, especially in a bear market. Now, it did do considerable gains. So it went over 20x in a bear market, which very rarely happens, and is a massive gain. Now, realize that even with it at almost $2, the market cap is only $26 million. So that means when the market cap, or when the price was about almost 450, market cap would have only been about 70 million. So that means the market cap was probably 3.5 million at the bottom. And so this is part of the beauty of the higher risk projects with the low market caps, is it went massively up and still its market cap was only 70 million, which if it were in a bigger bull market, it probably would have retraced some and probably would have kept going to much higher numbers. And this is why a lot of what I invest in is the projects where I feel like they're substantive and they have something of substance to them. They have a team that can lead what they're doing well, and a narrative that makes sense, and then is a lower market cap project, because you can see the kind of multiples on it that you sometimes can't see especially on the blue chip ones. So even in a bear market, it did 20x. And what a very valuable lesson for those that kind of watch this happening just to get some more good experience. It is one that I've covered, and I had the founders of this on the channel a long time ago, and they are doing DeFi in a novel way on Cardano, which is what made them special. And I'm not 100% sure what really kicked off our run. Now, some of our private Discord members like Pete and some other people really follow Cardano closely, and he'd probably be able to tell me. But they totally went absolutely crazy during the greater bear market. So at this price, though, well, I mean, the market cap isn't that bad. I'm just looking for cheaper deals. So for me, this is a wait and see if it comes back cheaper, because to buy this, that means I'm passing up a lot of other things where their market cap is at 1 million or 2 million or 3 million. And so it's already made the bigger multiples. Even at the price it's at now, it's still up about 10x from where it was at the bottom. And so it's not extremely interesting to me at this price, especially that it might have more correction. Who knows? Maybe it doesn't. Might have more correction coming back. If it comes back and touches anywhere near where it was before, that's going to be extremely interesting to me. And sometimes that happens, and sometimes it won't ever come back to there. And if it doesn't, then that's okay. Right, let's jump over to the next one, which is Vchain.
Okay, so Vchain, did I miss that? I must have missed that one. VT, yeah. Let me put that in. Yeah, so Vchain, here's the update. we got last time we talked about it, it was we were looking at these descending highs, and it looks like the pattern is still going really. So actually, we could just repeat this and push these over again. So it needs to break this pattern before I'm going to turn bullish. It's pressing against support and some great support here. And I think overall it's in a really good position because it's still, if we take a step back, we can see that it's in a bull market. If we start from this low down here, it's got some good history. Yes, it's had a run up and come back down, but so's everything. It's just this final rally, this sort of breakout rally that it seems to be missing. And it's got to start from somewhere. We need a technical signal to, fire the starting gun, as it were. And we're just not getting it at this point. So it's still a wait. But I want to see this pattern of lower highs break. So something that takes us into the sort of 2 cents, 3 cent zone. And then we can start talking about this being a major base and then it taking out this line here, which is the one that I would say ends the bear market and sets up a big rally. So there's a few steps ahead before we can call that the end of the move, really. So, but still worth keeping an eye on because it could happen tomorrow for all we know. But for the moment, it hasn't happened yet. So, still waiting.
Yeah, I love this lower trend line, and it's right close to there, and makes me happy. And I like this pattern. Now, I'm always aware that it could break further to the downside. And, if the whole market goes down, then likely it will, but it's showing a really nice basing pattern. And Vchain made some good money for me in the last bear market. And you can see in the chart there how well it did. The last bear market went up considerably. So I like Vchain, and it's one of the bigger projects that is substantive. They have good leadership. They have a narrative that makes sense. And so I think it's a buy at this stage and at this price. I do think the greater market, whether it's in the coming 2 months or in the coming 6 to 9 months, is going to have a bigger run starting, followed by a blow off top at some point. And that blow off top might be in 2025. It might be in 2024. I don't know. But I think overall, the timing is amazing for smart dollar cost averaging. So this is above the market cap that I'm looking at. So I'm not actually buying Vchain because I'm not holding higher market cap projects. If I was holding higher market cap projects, I would be buying this one. See, their market cap is at 1.172 billion. And I'm just buying market caps that are 1/1000th the side of that mostly. I do have OMI, and I just released a video on why OMI is one of my favorite projects. In fact, my number one project for price risk versus, potential upside, and laid out the case of why I like it that much. So if you haven't caught that video, you want to take a look at it. I think we're at a great time in the market overall, that a lot of what's going to wither and die has. There will be a few more things fall off, but from where we are now into the greater bull market, some of these things are now going to have massive upsides like most of you have not seen yet. And I'm excited for you to experience that because it is a wild ride.
Yeah, it's a point that it is difficult to, with the charts when things are turning, it's awkward because you're waiting for the trend, but we will hit a point when the trend becomes clear and things really start to move. And when that happens, and lots of things are happening at once, it sort of makes up for all this indecision that's going on at the moment. And you'll see what I mean when we're there. But yeah, it's this is a time for research. It's a time for laying out plans and for trying to work out what you might buy. So whether something's a buy now or not, even if it's not a buy, if you've done your research and you think it's cheap and then it starts to turn, then you're ready to go. The problem that a lot of people have, and it is difficult, is that you find something that you like and then it doesn't move and you sort of get on with whatever you're doing in your life, and then you come back and you find that it's exploded higher, and you think, oh, I should have got on board that. So part of the game is just to be there every week, just keeping an eye on what's going on, and then setting out a plan as to what you might want to buy when things look interesting. Or, you know, if you're fundamentally inclined and you think it's cheap in that sense, then using whatever downside as an opportunity. Obviously, everyone has different ways of approaching the market, and no two people will be the same. So just because one person does it one way doesn't mean you have to. But it's each time's important, and you know, hopefully when the bear market in some of these altcoins is over and we start to see a big rally in everything, you know, technically things will feel very, very different, and it will be a time to move quickly.
Yes. Well, the next one that the viewers asked to look at was Playzap.
Yeah, sorry, there was a headline. Somebody's comment came up there when I was talking over it. Sorry about that. What was that? Did you want to mention that comment?
Oh, Stefan says, I bought today some VET, good utility, Asian-based, dollar cost average, and Asia, their bull run seems to be starting already. The amount of awareness growing in Asia of crypto and the amount of focus on it is high, like much higher than we're seeing in the rest of the world. And so sometimes crypto is a global thing, and the markets used to be focused on what was happening in the US and the UK and a little bit through Europe and then kind of Asia. But crypto in Asia, it's a big deal. So with Asia having such a huge population, you know, China, the population has a lot more money than they used to, say 30 years ago. They could, in fact, I saw China do something interesting during the bear market of 2019, where there was actually a scam between China and India. It was a Bitcoin kind of Ponzi scheme scam, but it pumped the whole Bitcoin market during the middle of the bear market from 3,200, which was the low, all the way to 14,000 before it then went back to 3,800 after the Ponzi scheme, you know, it blew up. They always do. And so it pumped it up to 14,000. So the influence that can come from Asia is not to be discounted, because it could put a lot of pressure on things going up, and it could put a lot of pressure on Asian-based projects going up. Cool. Let's take a look at our next one, which is Playzap.
Yeah, Playzap. So this is a little bit left field, isn't it, Playzap? It's I don't know if you know much about it, but I had to go to the Coin Market Cap to get a chart. Very sharp move to the upside. When I looked at it on the Coin Market Cap chart, it looked like it was forming some kind of what we call a pennant formation, which is well, you get a sharp move up and then this kind of triangular constriction, and then you wait for a breakout to the upside to jump on board. Now, actually, as we speak, it's coming back down again, and it's negated that pattern. But there's not a whole lot of data. There's not a whole lot of price action to go on. So I'm very cautious about saying anything about it in that sense. But I know that you do the fundamentals, and I'm not trying to in any way, you know, step on that. So I'm going to, you know, I'd be very interested to hear what you've got to say about that. But I did have a quick look at the website, which looked quite exciting, looked interesting. You know, there's lots of games that look like this that I've seen people playing. Perhaps it's being picky, but having bad spelling and bad English on the website is not a great sign for me. So I'm hoping that the games are, you know, of a quality that attract people. You know, it could do very well, but there's definitely been some interest here. But I think it's highly speculative at this point, and not enough for me to jump on board, especially with everything else, with, you know, more established projects in a consolidation. I would feel jumping on this would be just a little bit too risky, you know, casino red or black type thing. And if that's your thing, then, you know, yeah, you got better odds, I suppose. If it takes off, you could make a lot more money, but it could also very much go to zero. So it's too speculative on a 50-50 for me, because there's just not enough data, is kind of the headline here.
Yeah. So for you, you're going to say wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting on this one. I don't love where the chart is at, because it is breaking this trend line to the downside, as well as after it did this big move up, what is the substance behind it? Well, I can't find what the substance is behind it. So looking at the website, what I was looking for is, who are the people running this? And I wasn't finding it, because there are a lot of scams. There are a lot of just ones where, I don't know, just weird things happen. They get pumped and there's a lot of manipulation behind it. And there are some good things about it, that it's backed by Kucoin Labs. So that means that it was somewhat vetted to a certain extent. Kucoin is cautious on who they're going to partner with. So that I'd say is a plus. I would like to see who the team is behind it. And I would love to see interviews with the team, because that gives me a better level of fundamentals. I can't say I like where the price is at. If it came back down to these really low prices, then it would probably be pretty interesting. I'll keep in mind it's only a $3.8 million market cap. But with how this ran up, and I have no understanding of what caused it to run up, and then it seems to be breaking to the downside, I can't in good conscience buy it at this price. I forgot. Yes. So someone didn't see what I was showing there. I'll go over that again, but see how it ran up here, and I don't know why. And then it seems to be breaking to the downside of this, just barely. Now, maybe it comes back up in this pattern or ends up breaking to the upside. But if it falls from here, it might have a pretty substantive fall. And so the last thing I want to do is buy it right before it goes down, 50%. And so if it goes down 50%, though, it's going to be more interesting, is what I would still rate as a higher risk. Now, the games themselves are games that people like to play. So the bigger question is, will people switch over from solitaire and other things that they play on their phone to playing it on this? And are the benefits going to be worth it? Possibly, when the bull market comes in. And if so, this one could do really, really well. And if not, people that just like the solitaire and they don't care, if there's not enough momentum that wakes people up enough to change habits into playing these versus playing the same games that they're used to already, then the project will probably pump with a greater bull market, but won't do anything extra special. So a lot of these same games, I just had a talk with Tom from Devio, also Litcraft, and they've developed a lot of these similar ones within their Litcraft ecosphere. So by playing these similar games, you actually earn stuff for the ecosystem that is then sellable. And so I think that model is good. It probably will attract maybe a few players that play this type of stuff, because they'll then just be able to put stuff that they're earning on the actual marketplace and exchange it for real value. Playzap, it's not quite clear to me what value you're creating or getting out of this.
Is skill to earn an expression that I've just not heard of? Because I'm
interesting. I haven't heard of it yet, but that doesn't mean it isn't a narrative discussed.
Okay. Yeah, I think sometimes when you look at the websites that are when I'm looking first, I don't normally look at websites that are gaming websites, right? But is this to attract someone who wants to invest in the coin, or is this for someone who wants to invest in the game? So somebody who just wants to play games, like my wife, she might just click on it and download it. But if you read a bit of it, it doesn't make a lot of sense to say free to play, skill to earn, because they'd be like, well, what does that mean? And then it says ecosystem, rewarding, playful, and decentralized. And then competitive gaming, enter a competitive arena to play and compete A multi-IP casual gaming app let you to discover a champion in you, whatever that means. Not sure what that means. So I don't know who that's really aimed at. So, but if the game's great, then fantastic. But it's like, it looks very snazzy, but if you're going to put text there, I think it should at least make some sense. And who is it targeting? But it looks like there's plenty of like the sorts of games that you get on your iPhone. So maybe I should download one and have a go. It'd probably be really addictive, and maybe it will change my mind on it. But I mean, look, having that sort of stuff on the site is not a game changer. It's not like the end of the world. It just makes me slightly more worried, especially when you're saying you don't know who's behind it. So I think just proceeding with a bit of caution, healthy skepticism, I would say, would be a good idea.
Because they're not innovating here. They're just copying existing games that are out there that already get a bunch of play. And so will that lead to people switching over? And that's a question mark. Will it? We don't know. But so I was talking to a good friend, and his wife plays little games like this. She probably spends an hour or two a day playing little games on her phone like this when she gets time throughout the day. And so if they can change behavior so that women too are playing these games through their ecosystems, and that gets more adoption, then this project can do exceptionally well. But I don't know, like, what are the incentives behind it? Because why are people going to switch from the way they're used to playing it over to this platform? Because yes, they're playing these games, but they're also playing these games somewhere they're already familiar with. So what's the incentive going to be to switch? Well, can they earn a token that's easy to sell? In Litcraft's example, they're able to play a game, they're earning something that they can then put on a marketplace and sell for, say, ETH, or they can sell it for a different, maybe a stable coin or something. So it is transferable to actual monetary value. How is it on this? I don't know. But if it is transferable to an easy monetary value, then that's what people are going to be interested in seeing. And then they'll get bigger adoption. Now, in the coming bull run, if they survive into the bull run, they'll probably pump with everything else. So the timing is generally pretty good, other than this market patterns might be about to fall off a cliff, and that's not very exciting holding during those periods. We've all been there, where we buy and then it goes, and drops out from under you, and you're like, crap, shoot, I knew I should have waited. So yeah, we'll see how this plays out. Interesting suggestion by one of the viewers. Specifically, he said it was interesting how he said it to, let me see. Rain, Mr. Live Show, you need to take a look at Playzap, best crypto I have seen yet. Thank me later.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. So he's obviously very bullish on it.
Yeah. I mean, if it comes back into this support area around 9 cents, 10 cents, might get a little bounce. It's difficult to say, really, but without, as I think I'd stand by what I said at the top of the show, it seems if there's some special insight that you have, then great. The website looks very snazzy, and there's probably some interesting games in there. But there's just not enough history, really, other than to just kind of roll the dice, if you excuse the pun, on taking a trade.
Yeah, let's jump to our next one. So this was a viewer suggestion. Scrolling up, he says, this is from Liam Stein. First time tuning into your channel. See you on around the Coinbase and appreciate your valuable insights into crypto. Curious what your thoughts on Polygon Manic. Fantastic question, Liam, and welcome to the family.
Yes, yeah, it's been a while, isn't it?
Yeah, we haven't looked at Polygon in a while, but it is one of my blue chip favorites.
Yeah,
it's so ingrained with the blockchain gaming. Not every project's on it, but a lot of projects are substantively enough that I think that they probably are around for forever. And I like projects where solid team, which they have, solid fundamentals, which they have, massive retracement, which they have. So I like all that. If I was buying blue chips, I would be buying massive amounts of Polygon in that portfolio.
So we had this, I always really liked it, way back, because it seemed to be outperforming, and then it just kind of fell off a cliff. So we had to bail out. It did stage a fairly decent rally ahead of everything else, but that's kind of fallen back again. So for me, it's a wait. It's still like some of the other coins, it's pressing the lower levels. The highs are still down, even though it's broken the downward trend line. It's knocking on the door of these support levels and leaning on them just a little harder than I would like at this point. So what I would think is if we could start to rally, if we get some form of reversal pattern, there isn't one yet. Even if you remember that 5-wave pattern that I was talking about, if we see something like that to kick it off, reason why I don't mind being a little bit cautious here is because when the rally starts and when the move starts, I'm not in it for a couple of weeks. It's for a long term, months and maybe even a couple of years. So I don't think I'm going to miss out on much by allowing it to go higher. And the danger at this point is that you may tie up your capital in something that's just not moving and then miss something else that you might want to jump in as a more speculative short-term ride and then jump out again. So taken on its own, I do like it because it's one of the markets that's been around for a long time. You've got a lot of data. It's in a corrective phase and we're just waiting for that to end. So there's a lot to like about it in terms of the big picture. But in the short term, it is still, this declining trend, 200-day moving average. If we use that as a marker, first step is it's got to be over that. And then we can start talking about a major rally. But for the moment, it's a wait. But like Cardano, really, it's one that I would turn to and keep a very close eye on when it feels like all the money's rushing into the crypto space again.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up my chart on Matic, and I love where that price is at. I actually didn't realize what this chart, I hadn't looked at it long enough to see, wow, I'm really happy with where this chart is at. And so for me, this would be a buy zone. Now, it's not as cheap as it got to 31 cents before, but even just recently and early this year, it ran all the way up to $1.50, and it's come down 2/3 from there, from a bear market price, right? So even you see these swings in the bear market, it's down 66% from this high that happened in the bear market. So it's just come out of the narrative. People aren't talking about it. People are chasing other green candles. And so you see these sell-off patterns happen. And so this is why I use the term all the time, buy when it's boring, which is just a fun way to think about when something's out of the narrative. This is when I like to buy. And so for me, this is, now, could it break lower? Yeah, it could. We see that it's likely to bounce up from some resistance here, but it could break to the downside. And if so, it'll go down from 50 cents, might go all the way down to 41 cents, might come all the way down somewhat near these previous lows and bounce around 36 to 33 cents. That could happen. I think the chances are greater it turns around here. This might be as low as we get. And so if I were buying blue chips, I would be, this would absolutely be a solid buy for me. And then I would make a pretty hefty buy. And then if it came down even cheaper, then I'd be super happy. And I would buy a lot more at the cheaper price. And I'd really load the boat, especially on such a solid project like Matic. I wanted to, on this vein, looking at Matic, because it reminded me of one that is always on my mind because I haven't reloaded up on it yet, and I want to reload up on it. And that one is Immutable X. So Polygon is one of the chains that a lot of the crypto is going to, a lot of the blockchain gaming is basing their stuff on. It's relatively fast enough, it's cheap enough to put your NFTs and other things on Polygon that it's getting a lot of traction. Another one in that line is Immutable X. And Immutable X, just like Polygon right now, is just out of the narrative, and it's come all the way back down. Not to the 38 cents that it was at, but right at this 50 cents level, which 50 cents and below is a strong buy zone for me. Their market cap down to 610 million. They don't usually like to buy in that high of a market cap range. That's starting to be entering blue chip category, but I like this one enough that I've been looking to re-enter it because I was an early investor in Gods Unchained, and for having the Genesis cards from Gods Unchained, they airdropped you some Immutable X tokens, and they airdropped those to me back when they were way up here. And when I realized about the airdrop and I got them, I started selling them about $6 because it was pretty clear the charts were going to just go down like this. And so I completely exited that position. I've been looking to re-enter it, and pretty happy with the current price. Maybe if we're lucky, it comes down even cheaper. But I'm likely to start dollar cost averaging into Immutable X. Now, Immutable X is where Vivi has their digital collectibles on, and some of the biggest play to earn games are doing their stuff on Immutable X. So Luvium, which looks like it'll be one of the biggest blockchain games. Gods Unchained has their stuff on Immutable X. And these are all gigantic players in the play to earn ecosystem. Now, there's not a ton of monetary focus on the blockchain gaming industry right now, but that will come back as crypto comes into focus. And so these games that are some of the leaders, some of them will go absolutely huge. And then the blockchains that they're on will be a really big deal. Someone just mentioned Amazon and IMX News 2. Bill, I don't know what that's about. Like together, that some kind of partnership between Amazon and Immutable X, or do you have any other context on that? So if we let's look at the price on TradingView, see if we can get some more insights. It is viable on Coinbase. It's viable on Binance. It's on a lot of the bigger exchanges, so it's pretty easy to get. And so it looks like it is right at this trend line. Now, I would be so happy if it broke to the downside of this. I'd be so ecstatic because I love the fundamentals on this. And with something that I love the fundamentals, the team is strong, it's positioned well. I want to buy as cheap as possible. So this is an area I'm probably going to pick up some today at. Just some, and I'm going to hope that it crushes through this line and comes way back farther, and I can buy even more cheaper. Awesome. Well, I have a little bit of cold today, if everyone couldn't tell. No fun. Still wanted to come with you, and Paul, we thank you for joining us. The audience absolutely loves your insights, and it's so refreshing because you have so much knowledge about the markets that we don't often get that level of knowledge in the crypto space at all. And so I feel like the benefit to this audience is gigantic when you join us.
Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you for the picks, and I always look forward to chatting with you guys, and I'll see you next week. So until then.
All right. Thanks so much, Paul.
Thank you. Take care.
Paul is a real gem, and we're really blessed to have him joining us now for like a year and a half. And what a benefit to us. The goal of this channel is to create solid and shakable crypto investors that really understand how to look at things and stack the odds in your favor. So investing has risks. Crypto investing especially has risks. There are a bunch of scams. And essentially what's happened is because this idea of tokens wasn't really gated behind the securities wall. And the securities wall is that you weren't allowed to invest in early stage projects because all they could sell you was equity in their company, which was deemed to be a security. And so say some new tech firm out of Silicon Valley was in the early stages, you just couldn't invest in it because they were going to try to sell equity in return for your investment. And if you were outside the US, well, you couldn't get it because you were outside the US. And inside the US, you couldn't get it because you weren't an accredited investor. So all the gates were shut for you. So this whole idea of raising funds through selling a token was a novel idea. Now, some of the existing power structure wants to then be able to declare everything as security so that they can close all those doors again, so that you don't have access to invest early stages in something that might make you massive money. Because if you don't have access, then the gains for those early investors that do have access can be so much higher because there's less competition that they have to worry about as far as investment. They can demand really, really, really low prices from the projects and get even higher returns. They don't want to have to compete with you. Where like some project might say, I want to raise $10 million for this amount of tokens. And if they couldn't sell to you, they would have to maybe only be able to raise $4 million for that amount of tokens because the pool of who they could sell to is greatly diminished. And so then those VCs that are accredited investors can get a much cheaper price and much bigger gains. And so that's why the US SEC is trying to close the doors on you. I mean, that's part of the reason. Part of the reason is we see so many people complaining about, oh my gosh, this project failed. It's a rug pull and it's this and this. And where the SEC is right is that some people are just completely uneducated. And so the SEC's, where they want to push it is that you just don't have access. If you're uneducated, if you have under $1 million net worth and you're not educated enough to make these decisions. And so if you have over $1 million net worth, you probably are less likely to run around and complain when something you invested in failed, a lot less likely to run around creating all the havoc and saying all these terrible things and slandering everyone because you'll just own your part in like, okay, it failed. Well, shoot. But I knew the risks and stuff. So that's the argument the SEC is making to closing all the doors. It's, these people aren't sophisticated enough to invest and they just get hurt. Well, sophisticated investors get hurt too. They just don't run around crying about it to everyone. They just take their losses and they take smart strategic decisions. So in general, they win a lot more than they lose. And they lick their wounds when they lose. And they, like they don't run around like screaming and calling everyone a scammer and stuff. So we see a lot of uneducation in the crypto investor market because they're not solid, unshakable crypto investors yet. Why? Because they know nothing about investing because these doors have never been open to them for early stage venture capital investing, which is what we're doing in the crypto market. But with that said, because people can raise funds from anyone, there will be a lot of scams out there. There will be a lot of projects that don't have enough substance that they're likely to go anywhere. And some occasionally will shoot up and create stories that then everyone chases. Oh, somebody bought $100 worth of Shiba and made $3 million. And they'll think that if they buy some random meme coin, that can happen to them too. And they might as well be buying lottery tickets with that money because their chances are about the same. Instead, I use my money towards focused stuff where I'm vetting projects way a lot deeper and then taking the risk so that I feel the chances of winning are massively in my favor. And it's worked out. This methodology has worked out tremendously over the past 6 years. Of course, when I was brand new, I didn't understand a lot of this stuff. So my first year and a half was just savage. And I had a lot of losses and a few gains. And I didn't take profits when I did have the big gains because I just was new, didn't know what I was doing, came in during green candles and it did go higher, but then it reversed on me and I wound up with some really powerful lessons. I'd invested $15,000 to watch it go to about 165 or 170 and then all the way down to 3,000, and that sucked. But I learned some valuable things and realized, well, now that it's a bear market, time to stock up while it's low because I bet you the market comes back, and it did. And I further learned some more lessons during that time because some of the stuff I bought during the bear market, even then, still died, but made millions in the coming bull run. And, thought my formula has gotten even better over time. And what I'm looking for has gotten better as I've gotten more experience. And I try to share that with you. Thank you for joining us, everyone. This wrap is for all of you. Just a fun way to wrap up our streams, reinforce the principles that make all the difference for long-term returns. See you soon.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, You buy before you could, was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss, cause I always make the time in mind. I stick the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't lead with my heart. The principles are simple, to leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, go parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to study and to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong can soon become a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.